Good evening and welcome to the Monday, March 9, 2015 Board of Education meeting. Please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I apologize for getting started a little late tonight. We'd had an operations committee meeting that had a pretty full agenda, and so that ran a couple of minutes over. First of all, item 3 on the agenda is action on the minutes of February 4th, the budget forum, February 7th, a special meeting, and February 9th, a regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Wait a second.
Second.
Did somebody move? Did you?
Yes.
All right. Are there corrections, changes, additions?
I think I have a correction.
We can come back to it if does anybody else have any corrections or additions or changes? Or?
You moving separately on the 4th? I can vote on that.
Go ahead. Well, I think we can, I think, act on them individually or together, can't we, given that they're all board meetings, they're not committee meetings?
Though not everyone was present at both.
All right, well, then just, okay, let's do the 4th then first, shall we? Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the 4th?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any changes on that one? Corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so who didn't vote?
I just vote.
Abstain.
Okay. February 7th, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved. Second.
Any changes, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And who didn't vote on that?
Abstain.
All right. February 9th, regular meeting, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved. Second.
Any corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, good. Item 4, public forum for topics on the board agenda. Does anybody want to address us on anything that's on the agenda? No? Okay. The expenditures for the month of February, I did those. Mr. Hazen has some work responsibilities, so we are going to switch off. You know how lawyers take care of each other, so we're going to try to sometime. We're going to try to do that. The expenditures for the month, let me turn to the end first rather than the beginning. The end is that we are still in the same general area as where we thought we would be, we believe where we're going to be at the end of the year. That, in other words, that we anticipate at this time a slight surplus and that we'll be slightly underexpended from our budget in the area right now of about $70,000. Now, needless to say, that is a very close number at this point in the year. On the other hand, we're getting close to the end of the year, so we'll try to continue to work on that. So we are still in about status quo, I guess is the way I would look at it. We do not have updated health insurance expenditures yet for the month of February through the end of January. They were actually looking much, much better, and so we were in a better position. The actual dollar expenditures for the month of February were $4,337,938.95, largely, of course, salaries, health insurance. We did get the excess cost grant from the state of Connecticut for excess special education costs, and that was somewhat higher than anticipated, although there is some question about whether it will be some of it will be taken out of our next installment, which will be in the middle of May. So we think it's going to be maybe at least what we budgeted for, and might even be a few dollars higher than what we budgeted for. So that at least is not a major concern. There are numbers in the expenditures for electricity at the new high school, but that is going to be reimbursed back to us from the construction contract. I'm going to talk a little more about the high school construction and the bonding later. And then there were some other items that we discussed at the operations committee meeting. So I don't think there was anything particularly unusual. So I would make a motion that we approve expenditures for the month of February in the amount stated.
Second.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item 6 on the agenda, communications. Anybody got anything that won't come up? If it comes up under something else that's on the agenda, we should just hold it. But is there anything that anybody had that we need to address now? Okay. Student representatives, what's going on with the students?
I spoke with Mrs. Walker from Adams Middle School, and she told me that 35 Adams students participated in the Southern Regional Music Festival this past weekend. Also, Adams students took the End the R Word pledge today during lunches and signed a banner promoting respect and understanding. Adams 8th graders and their parents will attend the GHS orientation on Monday and Tuesday evening of next week. And lastly, a school-wide assembly on global warming on March 24th will be sponsored by the Science and Environmental Club. And then I spoke to Mr. Augustine from A.W. Cox, and he allowed me, he told me that, I mentioned this last meeting, that 4th graders are doing a fundraiser to donate money to the Branford Animal Shelter. And right now they have $725 that they have fundraised with the Pennies for Pets campaign. Last Friday, Judge Shelley Marcus visited the 2nd grade class to read and discuss the book The Summer My Father Was 10. And students celebrated Dr. Seuss's birthday with an after-school enrichment program organized by the members of the PTO. And lastly, our Circle of Friends assemblies have been celebrating diversity by allowing staff and students to share special talents and interests with each other each week.
At Guilford Lakes, the student body has been coming together to support a number of very good causes. There was a school-wide assembly to kick off the Sarah Readathon recently, and with the PTO teamed up with the student leadership, and they are leading the school in collecting change for an organization called Pennies for Patients. And also the student leadership is helping to organize a book donation for the Roberto Clement Leadership Academy in New Haven, and they were able to donate more than 1,500 books. So that was also another very impressive feat by the students there.
And at Melissa Jones, these students finally got to go outside for recess today, so I'm very excited about that. That's true. And also, the Junior Achievement and Melissa Jones teamed up. So what Junior Achievement is 20 third grade and fourth grade graders are enrolled in Junior Achievement class, which is 5 sessions before school starts, and it's a program where they learn to succeed in global economy in the 21st century, which I think is very advanced for 3rd and 4th graders. And also on Fridays now, they're having a Fitness Friday where the gym teacher is brought into classes to show them different activities to keep fit for a little break during class. And at Melissa Jones, they're hosting an art show and ice cream social during their book fair. And then also at Calvin Leet, students have been demonstrating great perseverance in improving their literature and mathematical knowledge. And in math, lower grades are exploring measurements with standard and non-standard units. And in 3rd and 4th grade, they're starting to learn about fractions and how that works with whole numbers. And as with the literary, they're using different kinds of writing styles to express different things. And in February, different physical education classes performed gymnastics routines they choreographed themselves. And author Mike Lupica unveiled his new book, The Only Game, to 3rd and 4th graders. And coming up soon, John Aggie, a child's author and illustrator, will present a new book to kindergartners, 1st graders, and 2nd graders. And then also at the high school, winter sports season has just ended, and one of the highlights of the winter sports season was the fencing team. And on the girls' fencing team, we had the state champion in girls' foil, and also several members who placed on the first team all-state, which is very impressive. And spring sports are starting up right about now, and also going on at the high school tomorrow for me as a sophomore is the CAP science test. So I've been studying hard for that. In fact, I should study for that now. And also, past week,
Shouldn't you have been studying for a while?
I have been studying, yeah. And now I need to study more tonight.
We'll want to report back.
And also the End the R Word campaign, which was going on at Adams, happened at the high school last week, which was very successful. We had 2 state senators come down and a news station, and the entire school bonded together behind the great program.
Also at the high school, a few weeks ago, we had our production of Fiddler on the Roof, and it was quite a success. All 5 of our performances were essentially sold out between the cast, crew, and pit orchestra. We had over 100 students that were involved in the show, and that was the last theater production this building will ever see. And as sad as that is, it was a great way to celebrate the history of the theater program and to prepare for a move into the new school. In other news, the Guilford Developmental Assets for Youth is bringing something called Project Purple to Guilford. On March 23rd, there will be a presentation for the high school on the topic of substance abuse and awareness given by Chris Herron, who's an NBA player who now travels and speaks on the topic of his experiences with substance abuse. There will be another presentation for the public at night on the 23rd, and the town of Guilford is encouraged to wear purple for the event. Also, some of you might have noticed there are kind of purple ribbons all over town right now, and that is to raise awareness for the event in the time between now and then.
Also in the high school, on April break, I'm in concert choir and also voices. We will be attending Disney, and we will actually be performing at the Epcot Center. Also, seniors are starting to hear back from colleges, and we will all try at least find out towards the end of this month, and we'll have an idea of where we're going. And there's a Wolseley Hall concert this Friday in New Haven, and the concert choir, band, and symphony orchestra will be there playing, and that is at 8 o'clock. And then lastly, we had a spirit rally about 2 weeks ago, and it was great. It was a success, and also there was a gorilla running around, and Mr. Masenti wanted us to tell you that he got to pull the head off, and he realized it was Dr. Freeman running around in a gorilla suit.
Can we get some pictures of that, by the way?
I'm
Hold on,
sure.
just in case we need them. It could be
Well, it
useful.
goes into negotiations
Exactly.
with the contract.
Yes.
And that's it.
Anybody have any questions, any thoughts? Okay. Terrific, good report, please go
You
home
guys do
and,
a great
get-
job. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Go study further.
Have a good night.
And they
All right.
mentioned the middle school select orchestra for the southern region. Mr. Bloss and I actually sat near each other, and at one point I was looking up at a picture framed, and of the 7 children in the frame, 5 of them were from Guilford, which I thought was impressive. It was just looking down the
Yeah.
list of the students, from all middle schools around the region, the preponderance of Guilford students was just remarkable, I thought.
Yeah, you couldn't tell from the program who was from Guilford, but at least my kids said that they felt like Guilford had the biggest contingent of anybody, and this draws from schools all over, private and public. I think there were like 35 or 36 schools that are feeders to this program, but I think it's correct that if we didn't have the biggest contribution to it, it was close. And my guess is we do have the biggest contribution. It's an outstanding music program. The parents and the faculty really do, and the kids obviously do an outstanding job. And it's nice that it's recognized by people on the outside. We also, Dr. Moore and I were sitting at the edge of the stage, and as close as the chairs were for the performers to the edge of the stage was just, we better have a lip on the stage in ours. A doctor and a lawyer sitting watching. This was just a very bad combination, but no, it was very bad. But it was you're right, it was good for bringing that up. It was a really good performance. Item 8, superintendent's report. You may notice that we don't have a superintendent tonight, but we have an assistant superintendent and associate superintendent. Dr. Freeman is down at the Board of Finance meeting. They met, the Board of Finance met on Thursday. We had a presentation, answered some questions, but Dr. Freeman and I thought it was probably better for him to be down there at that meeting in case there were additional questions. They expect to vote tonight on moving a budget forward and the bonding package forward. So it seemed reasonable that he go to that. So we'll turn it over to our associate and assistant superintendents to tell us what's going on.
Okay, the first item, 8.1, Dr. Freeman would like to table that one until next month to give you an update on the teacher evaluation plan. It continues to evolve from the state level as well as our local plan. So he will give you more information about that.
Yeah,
next
I'll just say a word about that. We did meet with Senator Schlossberg, the co-chair of the Education Committee, and Senator Kennedy, and the chairs of the 6 towns in the 12th Senatorial District. And I guess I'd met Senator Schlossberg before, but I don't know her that well. She is from Milford, and I think it was the impression of everybody in the room that she was really listening and very interested in trying to do things to make life easier for us and education better. That she, I think, my guess is we were not the first group that told her that a one-size-fits-all approach is maybe not the way to go, and it doesn't necessarily work for a district like ours. My guess is that she has heard before that we really didn't need their help in doing a teacher evaluation plan, and that we were okay with our own. So she's actually, I think, been very open about really trying to effect some legislative changes. And I don't want to say I'm optimistic, but I'm kind of optimistic that there may be some, some movement in that area. So, we'll see. It's a long session this year, so maybe they'll actually get something done.
Item 8.2, the update on high achieving student study. Dr. Borland presented the report to the board and approximately 6 parents on February 23rd at Adams Middle School, and this was a result of his review and evaluation of our program of how we support high achieving students and some recommendations. We have been meeting. We've had at least 2 meetings on the recommendations. Not all the recommendations work in concert. Some of them are either or. There are different options, but we are focusing primarily around many of his recommendations around differentiation in practice, flexible grouping within classes, and mathematics at Baldwin, including really looking at the schedule. And I noticed in the newsletter that's in your packet today, Mr. Hamill, the principal, talks a little bit about his plan to review the schedule. So that's still an ongoing process. We have continued to meet about that topic. We haven't met since Dr. Borland's presentation due to all the cancellations due to snow. But the district leadership team will be meeting again later this month to discuss it. The next item, the Smarter Balance Assessment Update. This is just very brief. I did put in your packet a flyer that I thought was quite well done around for parents, preparing students for success, a parent resource, new tests, new results. It's really an informational flyer. It just explains some of the reasons for the test and in order to support new standards, because our old assessments do not. The tests themselves were developed to old standards. And so when we raise our standards, we raise how we're going to measure it as well. And so we do have schedules ready. Each school, within a large window that the state gave us, we determined some other parameters at the local level, and then each principal looked at the resources in their school as well as the technology and the tech support to determine what would be best for their school. And so ultimately we've staggered, but our parameters were that we weren't going to test anyone until after spring break in April. We would not test anyone, any 11th grade student who is taking an AP test until after the AP tests are completed. So even though the high school students may start testing, they're going to test them in groups, like Group A, but those students are not taking any AP tests, and when the AP students, when their schedule is when after AP tests are finished. So we didn't want to conflict with advanced placement testing in any way, shape, or form. We are also staggering when we are starting the test. The Cox and Adams are going to be the first to begin on April 21st, and then the other schools will begin. Lee's going to begin on the 27th. Lakes and Jones and Baldwin is also going to begin on the 27th, and then Lakes and Jones are both going to begin on May the 4th. So, and that's when the high school is also beginning. But remember, advanced placement students will not begin testing until the 18th of May, after all advanced placement tests are finished. As far as the schedule is concerned, and I think it's important for parents to know that students will not be testing all day. They're only testing for a brief amount of time, depending on the age of the child. Third and fourth grade students will probably test for about 30 to 45 minutes at a time, and then they can stop the test and pick up where they left off the next time, the next day that they test. So it's important to realize that this is not a time test. Some students will finish much earlier. Some will take much longer. But we think that it is measuring some really high-level skills. And so, we're anxious to see how it's all going to work out. It is done online using technology. The students are very comfortable using the technology. It's only the administrators that get nervous around, is it all going to work, and are they going to be able to log on? And sure enough, the kids do it just fine. So that's pretty much, any questions?
The timing and when you say it's important for parents to understand the timing and the amount of time in the tests, is that going to be communicated to parents in some way?
Yes.
Other than just here?
Each school will actually send home a letter explaining exactly the days and the grades that are going to be testing and about how long they'll be testing each day. But remember, this is not a time test, so we can't say, oh, they're all going to be finished, in 5 days or in 7 days, because some students may take longer and some students may finish in, much shorter amount of time. And so that's the beauty of it, and it's a lot less stressful if there's not a clock ticking and somebody is up there saying, you have 10 minutes, and then put your pencil down. That's really kind of stressful for kids. So we don't want this to be a stressful experience. They'll finish, and we'll go from there. But each school will be preparing a letter with their specific schedule and their specific times, because, even at the elementary schools, they're not going to test third and fourth graders on the same days. So third grade may be testing, and then fourth grade may be testing. And they have until June the 12th, actually, to finish, to close the window, but they expect to be finished long before that.
Any other questions, comments? Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
awesome. So on the next item, I will turn it over to Mr. Bowden.
I'd like to declare that we've used all our snow days for the year. I may be overly optimistic, though I must say that the sunshine today felt very, very nice, considering our February that we've just experienced. Included in your folder is an updated or revised school calendar. You'll notice there are 2 different dates on the school calendar, that the high school and all schools other than Lakes at this point will be finishing, at least today, projected to finish on June 19th. And with the closure of Lakes last week, they will come back on the 22nd and finish their school year on the 22nd. And the school calendar...
Is there anything we can do about that, the Lakes going for an extra day?
It's something we certainly can discuss with Dr. Freeman. I can look into it.
Well, I know there's a state requirement that they
We have to
get
go to
180
180.
days. Yeah. Is there anybody in Hartford that we could appeal to say, it's an elementary school, take it easy. If they do 179 days, they're probably still going to be okay.
No, yet I know that when we've been in our other districts I've been involved with, that when we've had the winters that have had blizzards and so forth, we've been up against the July 1st, the state is very reluctant to waive that 180-day requirement.
I think it is still, I don't know what the sense of the rest of the board is.
A quarter of the children show up that day, I mean, it
We,
seems
with-
silly.
now, historically, we've had this
It
happen
happened
once within the
once.
last 5 years because of
was
leak
a
or Cox leak. Because of the gas.
Calvin leak because of the
Leak.
gas.
It was a gas, there was a gas leak the day
Right.
before Thanksgiving or 2 days before
It
Thanksgiving
happened
or
with
something.
Jones, too.
Okay, and we had to add a day for that school
This is
onto the
sort
end of the calendar.
Bizarre that it's a Monday after.
It's the
Is there any
worst possible
possibility of-
combination.
Right.
Is there any possibility of, Friday, April 3rd, Good Friday, going to school or anything like that? I mean, I'm
Again,
raised Catholic and celebrate Easter, but Good Friday has never been a huge holiday.
Well, there's-
State holiday.
It is a state holiday. I think what you're hearing from us is to maybe explore alternatives
Sure.
and see if there is one. Who knows? We've got a new education commissioner now, and maybe, or at least for the interim anyway, maybe she would be more likely to grant a waiver under these circumstances. I
Doesn't
don't
hurt
know.
to ask.
It doesn't hurt to
That's
ask,
right.
and it really, I think you're right, Ms. Sullivan, there's going to be nobody there, or at least not very many people there, but.
Aren't we on a 181 or 183?
No.
No,
So we're 180. So.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it means the teachers have to go to work.
Right.
Yeah, and as long as we're talking, are you done with the cancellations or update?
I was just going to add that the updated calendar is on the website.
Okay. This is probably a good place to talk about why Lakes was closed on Friday. The staff noticed some pot there, and it only has to do with one roof in the entire building. It has to do with the roof, or more precisely, the support for the roof over the cafeteria part of the school. The beams holding up the roof are what are called laminated wood. It is a product that, now again, this school goes back to the mid-'60s, and so this was a product that was still used, but it was used quite a bit back in the mid-'60s apparently, where strips of wood thin strips are glued together and then are formed in whatever shape it is that the architect wants for the particular use. And then they're put up, and they are supposed to, and they provide the support for the roof, obviously. What has happened at Lakes is that the glue holding some of the strips together has started to fail, has started to dry out and release. And it's something that probably the building committee in the mid-'60s made a decision that the laminated wood was probably aesthetically more pleasing, and it was probably also cheaper than steel. It was certainly cheaper than steel. But the consequence that we're looking at today is that we're going to have to deal with this issue really sooner than it ought to be dealt with. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is that we think that it's not going to be a major problem to fix. In fact, the cafeteria is already open again. We got some scaffolding to be raised up to each of these 5 of the 6 beams and to provide support from the underside, and it is the opposite of aesthetically pleasing, but it is functional and it's not very expensive. It's cost less than $5,000 to put in. Then we do have an engineer. An engineer came out on Friday and took a look at all of these, said that with this fix it would be safe, and so that's why we went ahead and did that on a quick basis. The next stage of the process is to figure out a long-term fix. There's already been a couple of ideas floated that do not require taking the roof off, which is a new roof 3 years ago, so we certainly don't want to disturb the roof. But there is a way. The beams themselves, these laminated wood beams, are resting on perfectly good steel pillars that they use for support. So there is a possibility of tying another steel beam to each of the pillars and then running kind of in a T shape, a support up to the laminated wood beam. So again, not aesthetically fabulous, but it's okay. It's better than replacing a roof and everything else. So you know, we'll see. We're going to stay on top of it. We're not projecting, we aren't proposing anything tonight in terms of changes to our bonding or changes to our operating budget, because we don't know what the fix will be yet. So it's just premature. But it is, we've been assured by the engineers that it is safe. We wouldn't have people, much less kids, in there if we didn't think it was safe. The engineers have assured us that the fix has converted that roof into, and it is now the most solid roof in the entire district. And also, I should just say, this had nothing to do with the snow, from what the engineer tells us. This was a pitched roof, and there wasn't much snow on it. This was just really a function, as best as we can tell, a function of age, that these glued, laminated wood beams, the glue dried out and started to come apart. So we're gonna see if there's anything. There are other beams like this elsewhere in the district. We're gonna look at all of those, make sure they're okay. We're gonna make sure that whether there is anything we can do to prevent them from drying out early. Although these do have a finite lifespan. It's a kind of an odd product, I'll have to say. I've never really looked at these before, but we're just going to have to keep an eye on it and get this fixed. And we certainly apologize for the brusqueness of the cancellation of school on Friday. I don't think that was I think people were maybe startled a little bit that was this a snow-related collapse of some sort. The answer is no. There was never a threat to anybody's safety. It had nothing to do with the snow. We just coincidentally noticed it when there was snow. I mean, maybe people were just more observant because of the snow, and they were being a little more careful. So anyway, we'll see. It's just something we have to keep an eye on as a district and make sure that we stay on top of. So anybody have any questions about that or any thoughts? Okay. All right, what else, Mr. Bowden?
You pretty much captured what I was going to say earlier on the 15-16 budget update, so I don't have anything to add to that other than what you had said, that Dr. Freeman and Mrs. Trudeau are at the Board of Finance meeting tonight.
We did have a very good meeting, actually, on Thursday, I thought, anyway. I thought there were good questions. And I actually, I tell you, I don't think I'd been told this before last Thursday. Between the town is able to put in actually a decrease in the operating budget this year for the first time in some number of years, based on, and largely because of pension funding changes. The reason that they were able to do that is because they made some investments in pensions back in the 2009-2010 budget years. So they bit the bullet, whatever you want to say. They made a hard decision about making sure that the pension was adequately funded then, and as a result, they are now able to reduce the operating budget. Okay, that was good budgeting, and that was good management. But between our budget and the town's budget, and the increase in bonding, the total anticipated tax increase is less than 3%. Now, in the abstract, that's one thing. That's not that unusual even with just operating budget increases. But here's what's really interesting about it to me, and I didn't realize until Thursday. That reflects the bonds for 60% of the high school already being in the budget. And we're still like 60%. That's what Sheila told me after the meeting. We already have, no, absolutely not, no. $40 million in bonding, not 40%. I said 40%. Mr. Mazza corrected me. Sheila corrected both of us.
Yeah.
There is a total of over $40 million in bonds in last year's budget and this year's budget. That is 60% of the expected bonded cost. So those who were predicting double-digit tax increases when the high school came online, we got 6/10 of it online in terms of the bonding. And between last year's budget and this year's budget, it has been very manageable. And the other thing that I don't think has gotten a lot of publicity, and I don't think anybody's really talked about, is back when we presented our budget projections back 5 years ago when we were going down that road, we were expecting to have to use 30-year bonds to increase or to decrease the annual cost. Now, recognizing that that would create a greater interest payment over the years 21 to 30, but that we needed to do that in order to be able to keep it manageable. Well, because interest rates have been so low, the town has been able to refinance some existing bonds, and we've been able to go out to bond for the $40 million in bonds that will now be out there and on the market. And the town has decided to go to 20-year bonds instead of 30-year bonds. So it is good news all around, all around. The town has handled that project very responsibly, and I think people really need to understand that we're just about 2/3 of the way to financing this building. The state reimbursements have held up. The costs are less than we thought they were going to be, even at 20-year bonds instead of 30-year bonds. So it's really just very, very powerful, very good news.
Now, the headline in the Guilford Courier was a 4% budget increase, which I was surprised to see. I guess that included the bonding.
Correct.
But even that's incorrect. It was 3.
No, the operating budget increase is roughly 4%, but because of growth in the grand list and some anticipated revenues from other sources.
But the town actually reduced their budget.
No,
Their
that's
operating
correct.
Their
budget,
operating
correct?
budget.
Operating budget.
Yes.
Right.
Their
Yeah.
operating budget went down by 1.8 roughly.
1.84
Ours
or
is
something.
going up, if approved, by 2.49, and then there's increases from bonding.
Right.
So when you look at the entire $90-ish million budget, that's why it's roughly a 4% increase, counting the increased bonding for the high school. But you have to also count the increased anticipated revenue through things like building permits, growth in the grand list, and so forth. So a quarter of the anticipated budget increase is going to be offset by anticipated revenue increases. So, still the bottom line is we're in very good shape.
Right, so the tax increase is almost in line with inflation. I mean, it's a
little bit more, and
Yeah.
the difference is we're getting a new high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
For it
so,
fast.
I'm sorry?
And paying for it fast.
And paying for it
Yes.
faster. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's, I mean, it's just been
Yeah, no, it's
a series of responsible decisions. Going to 20-year bonds was a very smart thing to do, because the rates for 20-year bonds right now are just very low. So as we looked back at some of the numbers that we had presented at the town meetings 5 years ago, we were high. We were significantly high. And so, I know some people thought we were trying to understate the numbers to make it more attractive, and absolutely nobody was interested in doing that, that we're doing the presenting. But as it has turned out, we were overly conservative in our projections. Now, I think responsibly conservative, frankly, because it's better. Is it better to be sitting here today saying we did better than we thought we were going to do, or would it be better to sit here today saying, well, we did the best we could do, but in fact it's $1 million a year over what we thought it was going to be? No, I'd rather go with column A every time. But we were fair, we were conservative, and as facts have unfolded, it's wound up turning out better than we anticipated. So I think the town really deserves
Kudos.
Yes, we owe them a lot for managing this project responsibly. I know Dr. Freeman and Mr. Bowden have also worked very hard on trying to make sure that the process keeps moving and the budget numbers keep working. But I think the town is and I don't want to jinx it. I thought, I'm not going to say much more until the ribbon actually gets cut. But I think so far the town can be proud of this project, and it's going to be just an outstanding building. So anyway, that's all I have on the budget. Hopefully the board will vote or finance will vote tonight. So anything else from the superintendent's side of the table? Okay. Board agenda. 9.1, for people that have not been on the board for a very long time, this is sort of, I got to explain this a little bit.
Yeah.
Teachers who do not have tenure, unless they are notified by, March 15th? It's soon, whatever the day, there's a date coming up soon, between now and the next meeting.
Correct.
That if they are not notified that they're of our intent not to renew them, then there are certain measures that kick in that basically assures them of coming back next year. We know that we're down a few positions going into next year. We don't know what our retirements are yet, and that's actually something we need to talk about maybe for next budget year, whether there's something that we can do as a board to encourage people to tell us their intentions somewhat sooner than they do right now, because right now there's no incentive at all for anybody, for teachers to say in December or January when we're working up the budget what their plans are. So we have to, as a formal matter, non-renew or notify a certain number of teachers, of our non-tenured teachers, of our intention to not bring them back next year. This is hopefully a mere formality, and there's, what are there, 20 names on this list approximately? It is not our intention to lay off 20 teachers. That is nobody's interest, but it's something that we just have to do, especially when we're losing slots and we don't have a budget yet, in order to give us flexibility moving forward in case something really bad happens, because we just have to do this. It is, I'm sure that it's been communicated to the teachers.
Correct.
That this is not intended to convey anything more than what we hope it conveys, and that is that we just need some flexibility. We used to do this every single year. We used to non-renew every single non-tenured teacher, all 3 years worth, for second and third year teachers. We haven't done it in the past few years just because we've been much more comfortable with the number of retirements and with where our budgets were, but particularly this year with losing, with being down 5 positions, 5 elementary positions in particular, it's just something we believe. I think Dr. Freeman and Mr. Bowden both believe that we just have to do. But nobody should panic. Nobody should overstate the importance of this. And it's not nice to get a letter saying, by the way, we're intending not to renew you, but that isn't really our intent. We just have to do this to maintain flexibility. So is there a motion that we, how do we phrase it, that we non-renew the non-tenured teachers on the list on 9.1?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any other discussion, questions? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And I'm sure Dr. Freeman is going to communicate that message, Mr. Bowden, to the teachers, that this is just really I'm sure any of them who've talked to more senior people know that this is just a formality, hopefully just a
Correct.
formality, and something that,
I hope to be bringing you another list shortly to rescind.
that's right.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. 9.2 is to receive for possible action bonding item recommendations from the Operations Committee. Ms. Renner, do you want to talk about that?
Certainly. The Operations Subcommittee voted unanimously to recommend that this board approve the superintendent's proposed 2015 bonded projects costs sheet. The amount of the cost is $5,289,139. A couple of general comments to make about this issue. First, there was a comment made last week at the budget presentation, why is this number approximately twice as much as we're usually looking for in the spring? Well, the reason is that we're actually asking for 2 years' worth of project spending at one time. Normally, we vote in April at the referendum to approve the projects that we then have to be in position to hit the ground running with when school's out for the summer, working with 8 to 10 weeks of time to get the projects done. And it's sometimes impossible to even procure the materials in that time frame. So it makes so much more sense to plan out for 2 years. This is the first year that we've done this, so we are asking the board to recommend this package of projects for summer of 2015, this coming year, and also projects for summer of 2016, the next year. This doesn't necessarily mean that a year from now we'll be skipping a year. It is our intention to continue to keep the buildings in the best shape we possibly can, so we won't have any more new construction happening. So a year from now, we will very likely be asking for approval of projects for the next year out. But we thought it made sense to get on a more sensible timetable, so we're doing that this year with this package. I'd also like to point out that the items that we're asking for approval of basically follow the 10-year capital plan that I think is probably on the website. I'm not sure.
Double check that.
But there was a study that was conducted to look at the needs at all the schools over the coming 10 years, and some of the amounts are different than what was appearing in this plan, but we're basically following this timetable. So there is an overall plan for how we plan to progress ahead. The specific projects for summer of 2015, the most significant project for approximately $1.5 million is the security upgrades at Melissa Jones School. So last summer and throughout the past year, we've done this sort of project for all of the schools except the high school, which of course had the design features built in. And Melissa Jones, due to its structure, it was a more involved project. More configuration was required of the entrance area of the school. So we'd like to do that project in this coming summer. That's 1.5 out of a projected 1.9 of work in the coming summer. The other projects are the replacement of a sewage lift station, and I hope nobody asks me what that is, and some cabling for a new wireless network at the elementary schools, and also engineering for future projects, because we, again, for the same reason, in order to try to plan and be able to execute the projects in an orderly fashion, we bond the engineering costs in advance of doing the actual project. So that's the coming summer's projects, and then for the next summer, we have the most significant item is the Melissa Jones partial roof replacement for $923,000. Also at Baldwin, I'm sorry, this is actually more significant, $1.8 million at Baldwin. It's an energy project to replace the windows and doors, which I believe are basically original to that school from the 70s. And also the elevator at Adams is badly in need of an overhaul. That's going to cost $519,000. And the other smaller items are replacement of exhaust fans, evaporator fans, and condensers for walk-in refrigerators. So in total, it's $5,289,139 for projects to be completed over the next couple of years. And that is make a motion that we approve that.
So it's a motion to approve bonding in that amount. Is there a second? Second, okay. Questions, comments, thoughts, observations?
I'm just going to perhaps state the obvious, which is anyone who walked into Adams even in January of this year and still saw plywood up would understand the great idea of trying to really think ahead so that our teachers, our students are not disrupted by construction that literally sometimes goes well into the winter because of this issue of, as Mrs. Renner so well described, just trying to get it all done after a budget that gets passed in April.
It's impossible, because you have
No,
to,
that's right.
first of all, you have to do the RFPs, then you have to actually go out to bid, then you have to award the bid, then the successful bidder has to get the materials. If your successful bidder is actually a good company and busy, it may not have the capacity to do the work starting next week and get everything done then between the end of June and the end of August. It's just not, it makes no sense. This makes much more sense, 100%.
It's an idea whose time has come.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
But just to be, it is not our anticipation then, we might be back next year for bonding for 2017, in other
Right.
words, 2 years out, but we wouldn't be double bonding for a year that we're already seeking bonding for, absent some kind of an emergency. And, obviously, if there's some beam issue somewhere or something like that, you have to deal with that. But the thought would be that we just get on by doing 2 years now, then we get on a cycle where we're doing projects in the current summer and the next summer and can do the engineering and the planning. So, okay. Any other questions or comments? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Terrific. Dr. Balistraci, are you
Yes.
graduation requirements?
Right. This is graduation requirements 6310, the policy and the regulation. We have seen this fairly recently at the board level, but we're bringing some text changes that need to be considered. We would like this as a receive action tonight and give people a chance to look it over, and then we would vote on it at our next meeting. On the policy, at the bottom, what this basically, in both the policy and the regulation, what it does is identify, take out the capped specifications and identify simply assessments. So we have students for science still taking capped testing, but for language arts and for mathematics, taking smarter balanced testing. And so the assessment piece covers both of those. Specifically, it identifies the participation in these tests as a graduation requirement. All students must attain proficiency on the science statewide mastery examination and participate in the mathematics and English language arts statewide mastery examination. And then the regulation, let me point out, as has been the case in the policy, special circumstances for special education students certainly are made and will continue to be made. The regulation at the bottom of page B, again, beginning with the class of 2016, unless an alternative is provided by the superintendent designee, all students must participate in the language arts and mathematics assessment of the statewide mastery examination and meet or otherwise exhibit proficiency on the science statewide mastery examination. And because that covers now what is required, Section 1.4 of the regulation, which is several pages long, has been stricken. So I don't know if anybody has any questions about that.
This is an effort to eliminate unnecessary language and write it in a way that the policy and the regulation will be applicable, whether the CAT becomes smarter balance, becomes yet another iteration by relying on the definition of the phrase statewide mastery examination that's at General Statutes 10-14NA to cover any future iterations. It's primarily a cleanup, right?
It is primarily a cleanup. That's exactly right.
Good.
You know, I have a vague recollection that the language in the current policy that students must attain proficiency in the various tests, wasn't there a safety valve to that somewhere?
Well, the safety valve was in the old test.
Right.
Is that if students didn't meet proficiency in the first time they took it, they could retake it even 2 times. As you know, if they didn't meet proficiency as a 10th grader, they could retake it as an 11th grader, or retake it again as a 12th grader, or they could demonstrate this otherwise exhibit proficiency, a portfolio.
Right, that's what I was thinking about.
And so that still exists, but we just put or otherwise exhibit proficiency. We know what it means, and it didn't need to be, spelled out, because really this other stuff that was in here was based on proficiency standards for each level, because this test is completely gone, and the proficiency standard, or whatever they're going to call it, the standard, hasn't been set yet. However, it is important that we, and the high school felt it was very important that we have this as a component of graduation, at least to say that, yes, you will participate as part of the graduation. But it's not the sole criterion for graduation, of course. You still have community service, you still have credit hours, but this is just another component. But that was the piece around the portfolio.
Okay.
And that still exists for science, because there is a proficiency standard for that one. In the future, we may be back with more standards as, it gets further
Right,
down
as the smarter
the
balance is
line.
normed, and we have a sense of
But
it.
now we believe that this is the most logical thing that we can do, given the state requirements and the federal requirements, without being too cumbersome on the school.
Okay, well, this is just a receive
Yeah,
tonight, so we
yes,
can,
just
anybody who
receive.
has any questions, please let Dr. Keene know or Dr. Balistrasi know, and then we can
Right.
put it on next month's agenda and see what we think. Is this what most districts are doing?
Most districts are asking us what we are doing.
Oh, of course.
To be honest, I have sent this draft to a lot of people. Some did some work last fall, and they just tried to mirror what they already had, kind of got convoluted. So almost everybody's working on it right now. But I know that Dr. Freeman has sent me several inquiries from other superintendents, and I've been sending them copies of just the drafts and what we're thinking. We've been meeting, we met with the high school. On several occasions, the high school actually came to the policy committee, and I attended as well, and just to try to get this in place, but not rush it, but it will be helpful if by April we could have something in place, because they're going to be beginning,
Juniors
in
need
May.
to know.
Right.
Right, the juniors need to know that this is, that their participation is required for graduation.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, good, thank you. Committee reports, policy committee, anything else? Are you?
No, I'm trying to.
We began to discuss our upcoming agenda on various
That's right.
policies that we're going to consider over the course of our next meetings for the remainder of the year.
Right, Mr. Bowden did an excellent job of kind of summarizing kind of what the next steps are most likely need to be in prioritizing, helping us prioritize.
Okay. Operations committee, anything else?
Yeah, we met with a company called Synergistic, who, it's an energy, the way they described it, they will modify our behavior and teach us to save energy, and they will take a cut of the savings. So we think it's a fascinating concept, and we need to hear a lot more about the details and how the whole thing would work. But Mr. Bowden has had successful experience with them in the past, so we hope to continue hearing about that.
My hunch is Mr. Sands would like to see the contract before.
Sure.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I'd also like to see whether,
There's some issues in the numbers. Yes.
I
We have to know
don't
exactly
disagree.
how it works.
it's also helpful to know if there are other companies that do the same job.
Well, I think there are other vendors, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay. Actually, we did get a report from our insurance advisor tonight.
We did, that's right. We had our quarterly report. Little glimmers of good news in terms of average spending trending down, the number of claims trending down. So we'll have a more comprehensive report in a few months.
Right. Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Committee, we did meet, right, in January?
We met in January.
Yeah.
We've already
Right.
reported on that
Yeah.
meeting. The next
Yeah.
meeting is March 23rd.
Is there anything specifically that people want to talk about at that meeting?
We're providing that to you.
Yeah, just let
as the
us, yeah,
meeting
let me know,
arrives,
let me know as soon as you can. So that's in 2 weeks, that meeting? All right,
It'd
it
be
would
nice,
helpful.
I don't know who's doing the agenda, but if there's a draft agenda, just to send it out ahead of time.
Yeah, I'll talk to Dr. Freeman about if he has any ideas, but if any of us have any things that we want to talk about, I think we could certainly do that. Yeah, just, maybe anytime next week, if you can get it to me, then I'm sure we can figure it out. Okay. Building committee report, as far as I know, things are still under control. I don't know, Mr. Bowden, do you have any different information? Are you?
No, we're moving right along on schedule. I know, there's nothing that is, other than what you spoke about tonight, that's come up. Feel very confident that we're progressing, as expected this year.
I'm so looking forward to this, I must say.
Well, the next big step, of course, is to take this building.
Yeah, I'm willing to help with that. You notice some of the class shields have already disappeared, by the way.
Yeah.
They're in storage, I guess, at least for a while. Okay, good. Town committee liaisons, anything going on with the town committees?
The Land Acquisition Committee did not meet because the Board of Finance was meeting last Thursday at the same time, and so nothing to report there.
All right. Okay, anything else from committee reports? Guess not? No? Public questions? Anybody want to ask any questions? There's not a lot of public left, but don't.
I just am sitting here looking at that chair that is usually reserved for
Yes.
Suzanne Carlson. And I just want you to know, I talked to her, I spoke with her. She's at home now. If you would like to send a card, she is recuperating very well. And she has been with us for my 9 years, 10 years. And I hope she's going to recover rapidly and be back in her chair.
Absolutely. It's a good thought. All right, any other questions, comments, thoughts?
I believe we do have an entry in the GFFE spelling bee
That's right.
So
Yes.
that'll occur
Watch
before the
out.
next meeting.
Everybody else better watch out.
Do me a favor,
So,
just make sure you can spell curriculum. You know, that's the one.
Yeah, I've actually
you have
added
nightmares
baccalaureate
about,
to
right?
that list this year.
Baccalaureate.
Yeah, I'm going to be studying that very carefully,
That's
just in
one that
case.
I wake up at like 2 in the morning.
Oh,
Like a-
yeah.
Yeah, please come out and support us.
Absolutely. That'll be the last one in the
That's Friday, the
auditorium, the high school auditorium, this one.
20th, right?
What is it?
I think it's Friday,
Yes,
the
yeah,
20th, is that
right,
right?
I think
A
that's
week
right.
from this upcoming Friday.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All
And the
right.
team is the three doctors, Dr. Moore, Dr. Balistrasi, and Dr. Myers.
here's what I-
Which should
You should
not
ace this.
scare anybody.
I want to know is who's going to do the
If I may
handwriting.
speak for myself, anyway.
Right. We need a lawyer to do
It
the
could be,
handwriting.
This is going to be in English, by the way, it's right. It's not going to be
Right, well,
hieroglyphics
Yeah.
or,
You've heard of the three tenors, right?
yeah. I'm not, well, I'm sure you'll let us know if it, how it works out.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Okay. Any other questions, thoughts? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Just remarkable how quickly these meetings go. And
That crossed my mind about 5 minutes ago, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to let it go. And I know we missed it. But there is some cause and effect maybe, or at least a coincidental.
Well, don't go there.
Leave it right there.
All right, good. Motion to adjourn's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
It's a record.